Archdemon Nadare, immutable justice, one of the 7 absolute evils existing in this world. Possessing the alias of Fractured World, she is Avesta's sensory who reigns as the epitome of black. Being the anti-existence of Ahura Mazda, the epitome of white, the two of them hold the position of controlling and managing the struggle in between good and evil together. Nevertheless, unlike Ahura Mazda, who is a single individual, Nadare undergoes replacement, much like the heroes. The individual deemed as the greatest failure in the struggle in between good and evil of their era. This one being who, while being a totally ordinary person, harbored too much ambition in their heart and, despite being aware of that fact, couldn't give up on their dream, is chosen as the next Nadare. Thus, he or she, whose true name has been stolen away, is forced into playing the jester-like role of spinning a world filled with nothing but farce. As a result, they come to harbor a deep hatred towards God in their heart, ultimately reaching the point of making the destruction of the universe of dualism their objective, deeming their position as something cursed. However, due to the firm, solid karma of a failure, absolutely nothing will go smoothly for them. As a result, they change into a nihilistic existence that wishes for release through death. However, it'd be hard to say that what's mentioned above is merely due to God's sadistic tastes. According to Ahura Mazda's considerations, Nadare's situation and circumstances are an imitation of God's own. That is, her true goal is to create a simulation of her own past, and to predict exactly what kind of future could be born from that point. When it comes to God, Nadare is a literal sensory, a literal avatar, deployed in such a world, which acts as a simulation. As warriors go, Nadare is just average. She has no talent for it, her Garyoku is weak and her techniques are mediocre, but she has something that make up for all of these. That is her position. The name of Nadare is a role as everyone's Mao. If I get it right, she has certain privileges over the world universe, and it doesn't matter if you are millions of light years away from her, you won't escape her grip. Fractured World. Nadare's special ability, however, through what kind of logic it works isn't neither known nor understood. Just that this power's nature is that of creating agitation, or, to say it with another word, chaos. It is capable of detaching things which are fused, as well as mixing together things which were originally separate, that is, to destroy the target's form as it should be and to change it into a different thing altogether. If this is used at large scale, Nadare is capable of forcibly modifying the arrangement of celestial bodies. If used at small scale, she's able to reconstruct individual life forms in a chimera-like fashion. At first glance, the scale of the former and the later are truly worlds apart. However, for Nadare, neither of them present a great difference in terms of the effort she must exert. From this fact, Fractured World is not something accomplished by scrapping off mind and body, much like what power of the ego or commandments require, but the mere execution of the right privilege of being able to perform that. So to speak, it is connected to her position, standpoint, and seems to be a type of authority. However, when taking into account that a star spirit's authority only works inside their own body, Nadare's privilege, capable of affecting the entire universe, is certainly exceptional, and there's no choice but to call it an abnormal thing. The Garden of Bloodshed Balaga was rejected to another dimension till Nadare's Haukai broke the seal and brought it to the normal universe. Nadare can also applies Haukai into her blade slashes. So she can absolutely cut anything, going even further than separating intermolecular bonds of something, to cutting down concepts. Even so, it couldn't pierce Magsarian's body at that stage. Singularity Vahana. Nadare's domain during the Old Age. That is, it is Angra Mainyu, meaning the chariot of God. Furthermore, in previous ages, it has been called things such as Merkaba or Amanukifun, and this too possesses the same meaning. Finally, all of these have been the domain of Nadare across the different generations of the position. Gathas. A regularly held gathering of the archdemons. No one is capable of finding any semblance of regularity in its summoning pace, as they can happen in a decade, or in a millennium. In addition, the laws concerning the gathering are these ones. Meeting place is Singularity Angra Mainyu. Because the archdemons are forcibly teleported to the meeting place, refusing the call is impossible. In the context of a gathering, no one can die nor be killed. The time it will take to dissolve the gathering will be of a few days if lengthy, or a few hours if quick. Regarding all of the above, the archdemons' wills do not matter in the slightest, as they lay in an area that exceeds their power. In a way, these are the strongest, yet most mysterious old laws in this world. Even Nadare, who is the oldest archdemon, doesn't understand the Gotha's origin and purpose. Nadare past. Flashback of Nadare. During the great battle when the previous Nadare sent powerful devas to destroy Hiranyapura, the headquarters of the Asura, a planet that possessed a role identical to that of Waman Yast. Through the use of fractured world by the previous Nadare, a great number of powerful Deva were sent in, which resulted in the complete annihilation of the Asura, with the exception of Lanka and Madurai. The planet too suffered catastrophic damage. Later on, Lanka and Madurai restored Hiranyapura through the use of their daughter as a human sacrifice, and, after a short visit to Kavarinus origin, they headed towards the final battle. Our current Nadare was just an average Deva then. Among the last surviving Devas, there were still 3 Tenino, heavenly kings, how the Maus were called back then I guess, with 4 or 5 of their aides still alive, and all of them were powerful enough to destroy stars. Here you have Nadare still 100% in the Deva's belief of good, hating and exterminating the evil, shameless Asuras, not giving up until they are erased from the world. She attempted to assassinate Bushyasta before the Asuras could use her as a sacrifice to become a new star spirit and inflict a severe blow to them. Unfortunately, Lanka stabbed her with the divine sword, thwarting the assassination, but he didn't finish her off because she was a small fry. As she was lying down, slowly dying, Shinga chose her as the new Nadare because she liked the colors of her prayer. She woke up at the end of the previous cycle with Ahura Mazda, the divine sword besides her. It's just before that scene where they've made an agreement with each other before the start of the current cycle. Nadare is one of 2 sensories deployed by Shinga to act as conductors of the multiple cycles the history of Ahura Mazda goes through, 1 in each of the sides. Ahura Mazda, the divine sword, is the agent deployed in the white side, while Nadare is the one deployed in the black side, but only one of them is constant, and that's Ahura Mazda, who remains immutable across the ages. Nadare is replaced each time a history ends and another starts, so Nadare is truly a concept imposed over individuals fulfilling certain criteria, who will go on to fulfill the role of Nadare for that cycle. Ferdoz is next on cue to take over the position Nadare. Fun fact: every and all Nadare's past to present had their appearance changed when they got slated into the position. Her 2 commandments. 1. Vendidad. A great cause enforced commandment equally imposed on every single Nadare across generations. In exchange for the binding of acting as the supervisor of the struggle in between good and evil, they get obtaining the power of a sensory of God as a boon. As a result, Nadare becomes God's material, visible body. Because they become an individual universe condensed into human form, it is accurate to call them a pseudo-transcendence God. What they obtain through this is, evidently, existential density comparable to a universe, that is, tenaciousness, as well as the authority to use super abilities, represented by fractured world. However, due to Nadare's very nature, they are unable to break this commandment. Their attribute, their color, is fixed, and because their role of bringing about the great Tensui through being defeated in the final battle of the struggle in between good and evil is absolute, actions that oppose this will fail altogether. Thus, rather than a binding, this commandment is a curse created for the sake of making those who've become Nadare taste failure. Vendidad makes her Shinga's sensory and a pseudo-transcendence god as 2 different effects, so she would be the only sensory who's a pseudo-transcendence god. And it made every Nadare pseudo-Gudo god, which also serves as a stopgap for any potential arising Gudo gods. As you can see, Nadare's standard commandment is called Vendidad, sharing that name with Ahura Mazda's. However, while Ahura Mazda's Vendidad has purification of wisdom, under it, Nadare's has collapse of delusions. 2. Angra Mainyu. A commandment newly added by the current Nadare. In exchange for the binding of accomplishing her duty as a true archdemon, she gets being allowed to control fate as a boon. Since carrying the way one wishes to live exists to its ultimate, logical conclusion is the height of transcendence, when it comes to Nadare, who added this to the aforementioned great cause enforced commandment, said nature deepened even further. So to speak, she's the very embodiment of irrationality. Because she has become the very concept of failure, someone who will be invariably unsuccessful at anything she tries to do. Those people who touch her will fail at everything. Their attacks will miss, they will become unable to do stuff like defending or dodging, driven into circumstances that are truly opposite to their intentions, akin to retreating while intending to move forward. This becomes more remarkable the stronger the target is, and if it's someone equal or greater than Nadare in terms of status, the situation will change into nonsense that's impossible to predict even for her, the failures involving both parties turning into a storm. Thus, if her enemy is an individual who clearly surpasses Nadare, they will surpass failure and reach a new horizon, that is, a new world altogether. In short, it's a commandment for the purpose of selecting the next god, becoming the greatest, final wall being Nadare's desire. Being defeated by a true savior and becoming the foundation stone of a new world is an archdemon's duty. Therefore, as the very incarnation of obstacles, she wishes to stand as the embodiment of every single evil. Nadare has become aware of the fact that this not entering in conflict with the aforementioned great cause enforced commandment is because God too wishes for a new world. However, she won't let her get away with her victory. Nadare finds an outcome in which everything goes according to this floating god's plan, the one who's played with her, to be absolutely intolerable. I'll make them pay. Nadare understood her true intentions upon Magsarian pointing it out, and thus, she swore to see her wish granted through becoming an essential piece to make him complete. Spoiler: Magsarian killed her. Her powers. Her presence causes confusion, anxiety, and uneasiness, instilling a sense of unnaturalness as if the world is collapsing and giving the impression that common sense is failing. Her authority, Haukai, has the ability to affect and warp the entire universe at will. Her authority has the ability to separate things that are fused as well as combine things that were previously separate. She is an abstract concept, the very embodiment of failure. Her commandant grants her the boon of being allowed to control fate, which becomes more remarkable as the target grows stronger. With her authority, she is also capable of forcibly teleporting others. She gains absolute cutting ability by incorporating Haukai into her slashing attacks, capable of severing not only bonds between atoms, but also concepts. Some kind of invulnerability where no one can get through Nadare's as long as they don't know what everyone entails. Some form of existence erasure as she was capable of reducing the little locust's existence to the point where they can no longer exist. Capable of tampering and reversing the order of causality, and as a result, the concept of time becomes ambiguous. Capable of doing various stuff such as messing up spatial coordinates and vectors of forces, causing thoughts to grow out of control, reversing body parts such as limbs, fingers, up to line of sight, flow of blood, and physiological responses, as well as manipulating individuals' own coordinates through her commandment. Those who come into contact with her will struggle in every way. Their attacks will miss, they will lose the ability to defend or dodge, and they will be forced into situations that contradict their intentions, similar to retreating while intending to move forward. Was able to break the Garden of Bloodshed Balaga seal and return it to the normal universe from its previous location, which is outside the reality in another dimension. She's an individual universe condensed into human form, with an existential density comparable to it. As an archdemon, her soul transcends the laws of physics.